Hey everybody, welcome back to Dental Unfiltered. I'm Matt Brown, and I'm here with an awesome guest today, Len Tao. Len's an industry fixture. I mean, you can't go to an event without meeting him. He brought Bird's Eye to dental. He's probably, I would consider, a pioneer in dental engagement for patients. All around amazing brain in dentistry, and he runs one of the greatest events of the year, Supercharged, which is an amazing event. I've attended it. He does it at a really high level. It's done very classy. It's pretty awesome. So, Len, first tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I have some questions about this year's event.
Well, thank you for having me, and I appreciate it. So just to clarify, I started iSocial reviews and sold to Bird Eye, not Bird's Eye, Bird Eye. I always like to say Bird's Eye you find in your frozen section of your supermarket because you've got Bird's Eye peas. So it's frozen vegetables. We're not frozen vegetables. But I started iSocial reviews and sold to Bird Eye, which I now obviously rep for the dental industry. But thank you for having me on. I was a practicing dentist for 23 years. In 2007, I purchased a dental practice from the estate of a dentist who had committed suicide, unfortunately, and bought the practice. I bought the building, was about $1.8 million in debt, had to learn how to bring patients in to survive and make money, and hired the gurus, I like to call it. Dental Town was the only place to really find information on because Facebook and stuff didn't exist. And I learned to market on my own because those companies I hired didn't do such a good job for me. And learned it on my own. Google reviews stood out as a great way to get patients. And I said, you know what? Let's do something about it. So I created iSocial Reviews, which got me into the vendor space. 220 offices later, I sold to Bird Eye in 2014. Became a part-time dentist in 2017. I speak I speak all over the country. I'm on the speaking circuit. I speak about 35 times a year. So I give classes on case acceptance. I give classes on obviously reputation, marketing, how to get more visible and credible, how to deal with Yelp, how to deal with negative reviews. Those are the topics I talk about. But I became a part-time dentist in 2017, moved to South Florida where I currently reside in 2020. And while I was down here, retired from dentistry in 2022. And then for the next stage of my career, I decided to go into the event space. The event is in September of every year. This is year 4. It's in Fort Lauderdale at a hotel called Pier 66, which, Matt, you can vouch for yourself.
I would go there just to stay there. That's how awesome it was. So just, not to make a joke, best toilets I've ever had in a hotel ever.
Yeah, the toilets were, when I went for like initial visit, my wife and I visited it before it was even built. So it's a renovated facility that they put $13 billion in. And I went there when I had to wear a hard hat walking around because it was still under construction. And that was, I think, April of 2024 we went there. And it was finished in January of 25. And so we had year 3 was last year at Pier 66, and year 4 this year, and year 5 next year will also be at Pier 66. But now I spend my life talking to dentists, helping them grow their practice, supporting them through the things I promote and talk about. And I do a lot of consulting. I consult on patient experience, how to wow the patients. So I kind of have my hands in a lot of things. I've got my own podcast, Raving Patients. I've written 2 books. I now help dentists with getting Google reviews removed on my own. That's something that I do now.
That might be a whole nother podcast episode. Let's talk about that later. Let's do negative reviews. That's an episode we should do.
Yeah, so that's been a lot of fun. It's been about 4 months now, so it's been a fun venture. So I've got my hands on a lot of different things, and I'm really giving back to the community and dentists that supported me throughout the many years that I was involved in the industry.
I would say that if I had to, like if somebody asked me to describe you, it would be high energy, definitely interested in the overall community, super brain in dentistry. And I think you're an innovator. You kind of always push to the thing no one's doing, and you always kind of look to the void that no one's filled, if you kind of look at everything. Now, going to Supercharged is the point of the podcast today. There's a lot of bigger events. Like I see you at them, like, Midwinter, Yankee, these giant events. And there's these giant vendor halls, and there's speakers tucked in this room and speakers tucked in that room, and this CE is happening the same time as that CE, and I want to go to one or the other, and I have to pick. And I feel like those events right now are kind of becoming less effective. I think they're shrinking. I think from a vendor point of view, from my point of view, it's becoming less and less of a good investment. I think the days of docs going there and buying the new stuff they need is kind of over with. I feel like there's a lot of lost in the sauce in that. And when I went to Supercharged last year, I think my first year, it's about 200 people. It's very intimate. It's one room, so you can't miss anything. The educational part, the CE is really good. I sat in on a lot of it. And the vendor space is between there and the food area. And I think you really curate and pick your vendors with a lot of effort, where I think a lot of events are like, all right, marketing company, give me money. You say no. Marketing company, give me money. You say no. Marketing company, give me money. You say no. And they just go down a list till someone says yes. I think you really curate who those individuals are and you vet them. So the first part I want to talk about, because the vendors is kind of always the thing, or docs like, vendors, whatever. Tell me how you go about curating those vendors and what your approach is. And then I want to get into the speaking and how you select that. How do you actually approach curating those vendors? Because it seems very deliberate.
And I want to get to that in 1 second, but I want to kind of give you my philosophy about the event because you pointed out some really important stuff. So I've been to every event out there multiple times. I was a dentist, of course, so I was an attendee. I was a speaker, and I was also a vendor. I've been at trade shows since 2013. So we're talking about 13 years I've been on the road I've probably been to every show at least one time in my life. That's big. And I was starting to become disenchanted with the experience. They weren't concerned with how the vendors felt. They weren't concerned with the CE. They weren't concerned. They brought the same speakers back every single year. And I said, why should I keep going if the same speakers are going to be there? They obviously had 50 events going on at once. And I just said, you know what? I think I could do it better. And, it's not the size of Midwinter, of course. It's a small event, 200 to 250 people. But I was very deliberate, very strategic in the way I did things, from picking the speakers focused on business and marketing only. So there's no clinical dentistry. The venue is a high-end venue. The activations, everything that goes on at the event is a high-end activation. We normally do something like headshots or massages or, the evening stuff is very thought out of. This year we're having an 80s concert by the band called the Spasmatics, and everything's 80s themes. So I'm very strategic in how I do things. Now, when it comes to picking the vendors, and I am very vendor friendly in my events, specifically because I was a vendor and I want to make sure the vendors are happy. Because honestly, between you and me, Matt, can't have an event if the vendors don't support it. You don't make a lot of money you don't make enough money at an event to be able to do it. So I'm very strategic in how I pick it. Like you said, I basically poll the previous year and I say which companies, or what services would you like to have as a vendor? And I usually take the top 2 that I don't have there. So this year, one of them, they wanted a sleep company, someone who teaches sleep dentistry. And so I'm in the process of talking to a sleep company. They wanted an implant company. They wanted a loop company. So I've added those. But because it's business and marketing, obviously it limits it. There's not many clinical companies there. I have a laser company. This year I have an instrument company that I wanted to be there. But it's really everything that helps grow a business. And very much a lot of AI. But because of what else I do in the industry, so I have my podcast. I have a big Facebook group with 8,000 people. I call myself a KOL. I don't like the term influencer. I'm a KOL. And I hear a lot about products, and I try them out. I have practices try them out at no cost to see how they do. And if they pass the sniff test, I have a resource page. I have I call it like Len's favorites that a lot of these vendors are on. It really makes it more than just an event. At my event, they get like a year-long relationship with me where I am, when I speak, people get access to the list. And a lot of the companies that I select are people that I know or people that I've worked with. For years potentially. Some of the companies are on their 10 or 12 years I work with them. And this list is promoted throughout all my events that I do, and it really connects the attendees with the vendors. So it creates more than just this, I don't want to call it a hit and run, where they come in one time and they never come back again, which you see a lot of these events. If you look at the new vendors at some of these large events, there's 100 new vendors every year because so many people leave and they just recycle through the vendors. I don't want that. I mean, a lot of my vendors have been there from the very beginning because I create this environment that they're supported by the sponsors. But the curation is a very important part to me, and I'm very strategic in who I pick and why I pick them.
I would say about the venue, I would say I go to a lot of events every year too. We see each other probably once a month. And I think it's the most beautiful, enjoyable venue I've been to, unless you talk about like the exotic ones, right? Like the Hawaiis and Dubais. But like if you're in the continental United States and you want to go to an event and also go to a great hotel, and honestly, if you want to go to an event and then take your family or wife to enjoy something, that hotel is amazing, and Fort Lauderdale has a lot to offer. I think as a destination, and the venue, I cannot tell the listeners how amazing the venue was. When everyone at the event is talking about the toilets in their hotel rooms. Like literally every conversation was like, have you tried the toilet? Have you seen the remote control for it? Do you know the seat is heated and it has fans that dry off your tush? Like that was the conversation. So if the toilets are that awesome, the lobby was great. The bar between the lobby and the venue area was great. The venue area was beautiful. There was really not a lot of echoing. The sound management was great.
The customer service is fabulous as well. They treat you like you're king there. I will say the one thing that it was cold. It was cold. The rooms were cold, and one of the sponsorship ideas I had was providing blankets to the people. Have somebody sponsor the blankets because everybody would have a blanket because it was cold.
And watch this year, it'll be hot.
Exactly. So we have to be careful with that. You can never get the temperature right. But that was the one complaint I got, was that the room was cold.
A lot of events, I find they have these night activities, and a lot of times like, you're gonna go or you're not gonna go. You don't know. Last year, I think like everyone went. Like I remember walking to the after activity and it was like a line of ants literally leaving the venue and just walking there. And then the last hour, everyone was talking about like you're going. Like there was a buzz around just going to the end event. And a lot of events you go to, it's like, are we going to go to that party tonight? I don't know. Like there was a lot of people who were like, let's do this, a dedicated drive towards that event. And I think your event, because it's 200 people, then you have a very intimate event afterwards. It gives a lot of opportunity for one, for vendors, for biz dev, two, for dentists who are attending to have secondary conversations in a more relaxed environment for the vendors, but also honestly the speakers get I saw a couple of the speakers having hour and 2 hour long conversations with groups of 3 or 4 dentists, and it was just more knowledge being handed out. Like I think to not go to your after event is a massive mistake, because that was such an engaging process, and we did a conga line and it was a lot of fun, but it was great.
I put a lot of thought into the evening event. So last year, for those that weren't there, I rented a 140-foot yacht, and we did a yacht cruise with activities. I had an illusionist that was up there doing mentalism and illusion. I rented a boat and we went on the water and took a cruise and served dinner.
Oh, the food was great too.
Yeah, the food was great too. Yeah, they did a great job.
All food all day was great. It was not typical event food like chicken fingers and like it wasn't just chicken fingers and pizza like crap. It was like very good food all day.
I do a lot of the planning myself. If I was picking the food, it'd be chicken fingers and macaroni and cheese and those types of things. But my wife picks the food, so we get better food because of that. I always joke around that that's the one thing she picks is the food, because I'm not a foodie. But again, we're very strategic in the way we do things there. So this year there's so Friday evening there's a wine tasting, a sip and stroll. So the vendors are going to purchase the wine, cheese, crudité, hors d'oeuvres, non-alcoholic stuff. And we'll have a sponsored wine glass, and they'll walk from booth to booth or table to table, interacting with the sponsors and sipping wine for an hour and a half. So that's Friday. That's a Friday evening.
That's different than last year, right?
We didn't do this last year yet. No. So I always do different things. I'll never do the same thing twice.
That's really interesting.
And then Saturday night is our 80s themed concert, where we'll serve dinner as well. So I'm in the process of going through and getting some 80s activation set up, old arcade games, Rubik's Cubes, 80s candy, nostalgic stuff. And the band is the Spasmatics, which is a franchise band around the country. And if you haven't seen them before, they are absolutely phenomenal. And they will rock the world. And we're doing an 80s costume party, so everybody should be coming dressed in the 80s, in their 80s gear, neon colors, whatever. And we're going to have prizes and gifts and contests and everything else. So it should be a really fun event on Saturday evening this year. I'm excited about it. It's
funny you bring up 80s stuff. So right across the hall from my office is I have a big movie theater and fun room, and it's a 100 screen movie screen. But then around the edge of the room, I have pinball machines and arcade machines. I have a 1982 original Centipede machine, and then I have a restaurant corner booth. I have like this 80s themed like entertainment room in my house where all the arcade machines are 1980s. Because I was born in 82 and I love the 80s. I think a lot of people in our generation are very nostalgic about the 80s. So we're doing the 80s party afterwards. And I know, you said some things do deal with mostly business growth, but like, clinical things like sleep dentistry. Sleep dentistry is in vogue right now. Sleep dentistry is a missed profit center in the practice, and having a sleep company there. I mean, I get approached as a marketer about sleep dentistry probably once a week. So I think even that's clinical, I think that is a giant business growth tool. Can you talk about who the sleep company is that you got?
So I'm still in the negotiation with them, and I'm still trying to get them to commit to coming in because it's a newer company, and he's self-funding, which is why he's a little bit hesitant to come. So I'm in negotiation with him. I only have a couple spots remaining at this point. We're 3 months out.
I mean, I paid last year because that's how bad I want. I like, you came to my booth last year, and I was like, yeah, I have to do this again next year. That's how bad I wanted to do it again.
Of course, and that's how most people should be. But there's, it's tough to get people to make decisions, unfortunately, but we have some amazing speakers. So I think, because the speakers are what the attendees are going to come for, I think we should spend some time talking about some of the amazing speakers that we have. So keynote address is Chris Ramsey. Chris Ramsey is a dentist in Jupiter, and he teaches something that's called, if I remember correctly, it's called Master Your Sixth Sense. And it's called he's studying the art of persuasion and human decision making, and thought-provoking customer service. So it's a motivational talk. If you haven't seen Chris speak, he wows the audience. He's kind of will get them all fired up. But he's an hour and a half leading off the event. And I have a second keynote. It's Jason Armstrong. His name is. He is not a dental speaker. Jason Armstrong is a former captain of police force. He was started in North Carolina. He ended up in somewhere in Missouri where a gentleman was killed, a young kid was killed, and he came in after that when there was all these riots going on, and he kind of talks about how to have confidence under pressure. So I saw him speak. I thought he would be amazing. So he is our second keynote. But we have it's for doctors and teams. Number one, it's not only for doctors. Because we have a lot of team speakers as well. One of the ones I'm most excited about is a woman by the name of Kim Watson. And Kim Watson teaches something called the Culture Index. And I met her, and she did the Culture Index on me. And I had to call my wife in when she was talking to me, because literally she knew more about me in 2 minutes she was talking to me with this index than I knew about myself. And she will send out a test or the index prior to the event. The teams will answer them, and then she will talk on it and then meet individually with the offices on Saturday if they want to meet with her to better the communication that takes place in a practice. So I'm super excited about Kim. I think she's ending day one. Of course, Matt, you're there speaking on case acceptance. We've got someone speaking on how to save money with taxes. I have a hygienist talking about how to take the hygiene practice to the next level. Again, more team related there. Dr. Michael Sonic teaches basically customer experience, patient experience, which I'm very fond of. So he has a book called Treating People, Not Patients, and that's what his class is called. So I mean, everything is geared towards getting a practice to make more money, to become better systems in place, to communicate better. And there's more speakers as well. I just named some of the the top ones that we have there. But I think there's 18 speakers total over the 3 days.
That's awesome. Like, that's a really good lineup of speakers. So you curate the sponsors and vendors you work with, and then you're very deliberate in the speakers and kind of the theme of how you want it done. And then there's a whole mission and spirit behind the way you do it, which I feel like today that's very rare, that there's that much thought put in every area. A lot of times I feel like someone just wants to do an event and they do it, and they just desperately ask every vendor until someone says yes. And then the vendors kind of force their KOLs onto the event and say, like, well, if I'm doing it, you have to have my KOL speak. And then there's speaking slots that are sold to the vendors. I feel like you are doing it with a loyalty to the vendors, but I think by having a loyalty to the attendee, it ends up being a loyalty to the vendor also, because if the attendee experience is good, you get attendees that keep wanting to come.
Yeah, one of the things, some of the feedback I get, and one of the things I do differently is I debrief some of the attendees. So I reach out to attendees, hey, can we spend a few minutes talking about the event? I talk to every sponsor. In fact, you can't be a sponsor the following year if you don't debrief with me. So I really want to always get a better event, which I don't think many companies or many people care about. I want to make the event even better the following year. So, one of the things I did was, some of the lower paying sponsors wanted time on stage. So what I created, because I'm a salesperson, is I think every business can sell a product within 30 seconds. It's your 30-second elevator speech. And I created something called the 30-second spotlight last year, which was a hit, where in between speakers, the 3 or 4 vendors go up to the front of the stage. There's a microphone there, and the spotlight goes on them, and they've got literally 30 seconds. The microphone will shut off if it's after 30 seconds and you can't hear them. And they go and tell people where they are, what they do, and why they should come and talk to them. And that sends a lot of people to their booth. So I'm very, very strategic in the reasons I do certain things in my events, because I want it to be an experience that people want to come back for a second time for, a third time, and a fourth time.
I think something else to point out about your event, one, it's done at a very high quality. Two, when I'm in the military, we have a concept called asymmetric warfare, which is doing amazing impact with as little resources as possible. What's really hard to believe is I think it's you, your wife, and your son do all this, right? Or just you and your wife. Like, I interacted with your wife a few times during the event, and talk about a smart professional woman who cared about what was going on. Like, that's the staff that runs the event. And it's amazing how much you get, the amazing impact and quality to develop. Like, some of these events have an army. It's just Team Tao.
I hired a company to help with logistics behind the hotel stuff. So they negotiate hotel rates, they negotiated the food, they menus, those types of things, which I don't have an expertise in. And I've learned how to run an event. So I'm the one who picks the sponsors, I pick the speakers, I promote the event to get attendees. And then my wife assists, looking at 80s activations now. She's looking out there for ideas. And she'll obviously, like I said, pick the menu. That's her big thing. I let her just choose what food we need to have. But it's her and I, mostly me, and that's what it is. I want to have control over my event, and I'm very anal, retentive when it comes to certain things, and that's why when my event goes, very infrequently do we run into any problems. And I mean, the worst problem I had is year 1, I had a speaker with COVID, so I filled in as the replacement speaker. And then year 2 in Scottsdale, one of my speakers got stuck in the hurricane that was on the East Coast at the time, and I filled in for a speaker then. That's the worst thing that happened to any of my events. We've run a couple of minutes late here and there, but overall the event has 0 flaws because everything is timed and perfected many times over. A couple of issues with the microphone going out, which not my fault, obviously. But other than that, it's been a relatively stress-free event when it runs, and people are excited and happy, and they want to come back again.
You go to events and you hear vendors complain about things and stuff. We just went to an event. Our company did. I wasn't there, in a different state, and vendors were all complaining about not coming back and stuff. And I'll tell you that your event runs like a clock. It just ticks off perfectly. There's no misses. It's really, really good. That's nostalgia to the max. If I see G.I. Joes, He-Man, Micro Machines, like, that would be really cool.
Transformers.
Like, I think the toys that we all played with, like, because we're all in that generation, like, that would be so cool if there was like a corner of glass cases that was like amazing 80s toys that were like backlit or something. That would be really BA. And then having some 80s arcade machines also.
Pac-Man, Dig Dug, Centipede, those Space Invaders, whatever that. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ideas that we have going through our brains. Rubik's Cubes. I'm trying to get a sponsor to sponsor the Rubik's Cube so their logos appears on them. So when they put it together, their logo's on there. So we've got some neat ideas. I'm actually talking to a company about doing something called the hologram experience. When people come up to walk up to the event, I will be in a hologram most likely. So it'll be me as a image, and it's in a box, and they'll be able to stand next and interact with me. We're trying I think we're gonna do some unique things this year.
That's really cool. Maybe some Tron stuff. I love Tron. I think very few things say 80s like Tron. The original Tron does, right? So it's really impressive that the three of you do this on your own for the most part, other than logistics company. It's pretty awesome. If somebody wanted to research the event or start to get registered, which I think to our listeners, it's a mistake not to go. I literally paid for it last year. You walked up to the booth and I said, yes, we're doing this again. That's how much I loved it. And I don't really endorse that much unless I really believe in it. What is the best way to start to research this or start to get set up to go?
Website is superchargeddentalpractice.com. You can register there. I'll be able to give a discount code, but I want to make it clear it's for doctors, it's for teams, it's for industry people who want to be connected with other people. It's very, very good networking at the event. We give a lot of time that's not in classes to be able to enjoy the resort. We've got some really cool panels as well. And there's a lot of speakers I didn't mention, but it should be a fun 2.5 days. But superchargeddentalpractice.com would be the place to check it out. There's information on the hotel, information on the spasmatics, all the speakers, obviously. If they have any questions, they can certainly reach out to me as well. I did have a discount code, which we said was DU for Dental Unfiltered VIP, so DU VIP, and you can save $100 on registration. So it's not difficult to do. It should take you seconds to register, and but you do not want to miss the hotel. I will say that wholeheartedly. It's an amazing venue.
You're, just so you know, on Dental Unfiltered, you're one of only 2 events we ever let on the show to talk about, and it's you and Paul Goodman's event. That's it. You're the only 2 events that we promote or bring on the show because I believe in both yours so much for the quality of the event. I think your event is top 1% quality event in the industry overall for enjoyment, knowledge, and actual value. So you're one of the only 2 I ever let on the show.
I appreciate that, and I promote it as much as I can, but I want more. I want as many people. You mentioned 200 people. I would love to get, I think 233 was the number registered last year. I would love to get that to 275, even to 300. So there's still a lot of room for more people to come there. So I want as many people as possible to come into the event.
Well, if you get me some information, we can do a mass text and a mass email to my clients since I'm speaking at it, and we can try to promote it and put the discount code on there through Dental Unfiltered. And we have our virtual study club with 500 dentists in it. So you can coordinate later, and I can help you try to get to that number because the more attendees, the better it is for me as well, and more people I get to meet. For everybody. Yeah, the more packed the room is, and it's an intimate event with a lot of people. It's really enjoyable. So thank you so much, Len, for coming on the show. Is there anything else you have to say before we go?
No, I think that covers everything. If anybody has any questions, I'll drop my email and I'll drop my cell phone number. They can always reach out to me. It's all over the internet anyway. It's 215-292-2100. That's my cell phone, and my email address is Len, L-E-N, at drlentao.com, so drlentau.com. And I appreciate you having me on and letting me talk about the event, and I hope to see people there.
You'd be awesome. Hey, Len, thanks for coming on again. Like I said, legend in the industry, probably one of the bigger brains, somebody that whenever I get a chance to talk to, I got him a way to spend 10 or 15 minutes with you. I'm excited. Thank you guys so much for listening. Dental Unfiltered has no sponsors. There's no pay to play. There was no transaction with Len to get on here. It's just something I believe in. Please like, subscribe, share, follow, and please leave us a review. We read the reviews. They mean a lot to us. That's kind of our thing that makes us feel good about the show. Thank you guys and have a wonderful day.